Hello, everybody. My name's James, and for the benefit of those listening on the audio, you listen to my regular YouTube live stream where I welcome questions from the YouTube community on anything football related. No weekend Premier League football this week. Obviously, the game week's not finished. We've still got Liverpool-Burnley tonight. Normally, I start these streams with a summary of team news, as I normally do it on a Friday, but we're doing a full podcast tomorrow reviewing all the midweek action. So I will get straight into the questions today. I'll be with you for the next hour or so. For the YouTube folk who's in the chat, hello to everybody. I will answer these questions as first come, first served over the next hour. Full-Time Talk says, hi, James, how are you? Thanks for the question. Yeah, I'm fine. All is well. I'm well. Wife's well. Harry's well. He's in nursery at the moment. Mum and dad are fine. Everyone's okay our end at the moment. More importantly, I've just recorded a Patreon podcast with Suj, and he's feeling much better today. So still feels a bit weak and stuff. Says he'll probably crash and burn when his working day is finished. But he's feeling a lot better than he has done the last couple of days. So that's good news. Auto Recluse says, hi, James. Hopefully he'll be okay. Suj will be fine. But early thoughts on what to do with KDB in Sky if he's out. For myself, it's probably manufacturing a way to Harry Kane next Thursday, depending on how long he's potentially out for. So I'm chilled. I'm waiting for news. I think that's what the majority of us should do. There's information we can learn at the weekend. He was never going to play against Cheltenham in the FA Cup, but there's definitely news that we can learn on Kevin De Bruyne, I would suggest, in the next 4 to 5 days before game week 20's Tuesday deadline. So obviously that's for FPL. But between now and Manchester City playing next Tuesday, all you've got is Liverpool tonight and Aston Villa on Saturday. So I think it's worth waiting for more information. By the time next Tuesday comes around, you would like to think we will have more information. Obviously, from that perspective, that does apply to obviously both Sky and FPL. I would urge caution for the majority of people. He was going to be my transfer in this coming week, but that's obviously not going to happen now, I don't think, unless Guardiola comes out next Monday and says, yeah, he's fine, he'll start tomorrow. I won't be buying him now. All Recluse says, is that the thumbnail that Sky Sports will use when they announce you're taking Frank's job? So for the benefit of those on the audio, our dear friend Manchild has been designing some thumbnails for us finally on YouTube. He's got a bit more time available to him at the moment. And he asked him to put a picture up of me and Frank Lampard for the thumbnail on YouTube, because I was anticipating some heavy Frank Lampard questions on this stream. None as yet, as I can see. So I'll kind of cover now. He's in big trouble, Frank. It's not acceptable for Chelsea to be in the position that they're in at the moment, well adrift of certainly challenging for the league. I think it's fair to say that Chelsea will not be winning the title, which, considering how fucked up this season has been, technically nearly everybody that was reputable should have a shot of it. Certainly the big six. Obviously, Arsenal was not even a shot of winning the league either, let's be realistic. And you know my opinion, I don't think Tottenham are either, but in theory, Tottenham are close enough points-wise that they could still make a fist of it. For Chelsea, I think it's gone now. And they're going to have a major fight on their hands to try and finish in the top four now. And I think Chelsea fans know that. There's been lots of rumours in the background that Thomas Tuchel has apparently been approached. We did a Patreon pod either last week or the week before, and one of the questions we had was, what do you think Chelsea will do if Lampard is sacked? And I suggested that I thought they would go for Tuchel. And the reason for that being is the experience in the Bundesliga, and they've got a lot of players who have obviously come from there. Werner, Havertz, Pulisic. How do you get the best out of them guys, right? So I could see that being a fit that's right for Chelsea in terms of their personnel at the moment. Also, there's links to them potentially wanting to buy Erling Haaland, who's going to be coming from that league as well, although quite wide join Chelsea at the moment. I'm not really sure. He could pick any club he likes, that fella. So Chelsea, it's close now for Lampard. I don't think he can afford many more defeats. I mean, should they lose to Luton in the FA Cup on Sunday, that's probably the end, I think, quite possibly. Jack Wilson said, heard much about the new Palace striker from Mainz, Jean-Philippe Mateta. Yeah, I've just seen this. Signed on loan from from Mainz. He's got 10 goals in 17 this season. Sounds like a decent record. But am I thrilled about Palace signing a forward on loan, Jack? No, not overly. Is he improvement on what you've got? I can't answer that. I've not seen the fella play, so it would be wrong for me to comment further. Hello to John Mould. Joseph Cole says, Sky question, assuming can go to anyone, best Aston Villa cover. I've got Grealish. The best cover, I think, is probably Martinez because of the value. The value is great, and it might open something else up for you. I mean, you might not, if you've got De Bruyne, like many people will. If he's out for a while, you probably don't need that money. But I think Emi Martinez, the fact that you'll captain him against Newcastle, who look incompetent going forward at the moment, would suggest that you got every reason to expect an 18-pointer there, whereas Jack Grealish could be a 2-pointer or a 15-point, depending on how he performs. So I think if I was buying from scratch, I'd go Martinez, actually. John Mould says, I have Rashford, considering a move to Madison. Thoughts? Thanks. That'll be an FPL question, obviously. Well, not obviously, but I'm going to assume it's an FPL question unless someone says Sky in the chat. Reasonable. But Rashford's got Sheffield United next, so I don't think it's the right week. Madison's on a good bit of form. His interview after the game against Chelsea was quite interesting. The fact that he'd been motivated by comments of Jamie Carragher saying for him to be considered the top player, he'll have to score more goals. Sitting there and I think, well, Brendan Rodgers hasn't asked any of that from you over the last 18 months or so. Okay, it's interesting how players find their motivation these days. Because someone said it on the telly, it's become more important to them. But he's playing well. Interestingly, he actually played in a slightly deeper position against Chelsea, which he spoke about himself in the same interview. He's doing really well, as is Harvey Barnes. I don't think that's the right move next week, though. Rashford's got Sheffield United. Leicester got Everton. I mean, the week after, when Rashford's got Arsenal and Madison's got Leeds, looks a bit better. So it wouldn't be a move for this week for me, I don't think. That's like a chasing points thing. Danny Burns says, James, 100. Cheers. Thoughts on Trent to Diaz or Cancelo to fund Son to Bruno? If KDB is fit, I may do Salah to KDB for a -8. I've also hit the 100 mark with 5 to go, and Salah captain, so attacking -8 could be beneficial. Don't judge what's gone for what you should do next. What I would say is, I mean, on the subject of obviously Kevin De Bruyne, if he is injured for the West Brom game on Tuesday, then Fernandes is going to be monster captained. Absolutely massive. Now he's obviously come through that game and not get booked last night. So he's available for Sheffield United. For Fernandes and many other players now, they can't now get that 1-game suspension. So it's only for players who haven't played their 19th league game yet. So in the case of Aston Villa, they haven't played their 19th match yet. I think Villa have played, I want to say 16 only, maybe. So I think Grealish still needs to get through the next 3 games, Newcastle, Burnley and Southampton, to avoid that 1-game suspension. Fernandes is going to be mass captained. From that perspective, taking the hit to get him is going to put you behind many other people obviously going to captain him anyway. I think many people would have captained him anyway because it's quite simply they're at home to the worst team in the league at the moment. But the idea of Trent to Diaz, Cancelo, I mean, my thinking originally was Salah to De Bruyne this week and then Trent down to one of those guys. Probably not for a -4, just stagger it as slow moves. But obviously, if KDB's not out, then that's what I'm going to be doing. You know how I feel about Trent as a potential asset. He's not doing it at the moment. I definitely don't want to sell him before he plays Tottenham because I know that's going to get me. But this absolutely a right, sensible transfer. And I would go Diaz over Cancelo. But it must be said, Cancelo owners are so shit unlucky at the moment. My goodness, he could have got a couple yesterday again. Hitting the bar in the second half. There was one effort in the first half as well. So the return for him is imminent. There's no doubt about it. I'd just rather have the guy at the moment I'm going to play. And interestingly, the fixture announcement was yesterday. And City now play, they have nice breaks between these really nice 3 fixtures that are coming up, West Brom, Sheffield United and Burnley. They play West Brom Tuesday, Sheffield United on a Saturday and then Burnley on a Wednesday. Then it's not Liverpool till a Sunday. So they've got 4-day gaps over these brilliant little run of fixtures as well. So I know Guardiola spoke about needing like Laporte back because he can't just play Stones and Diaz all the time. But I think he's talking about giving them a break for Cheltenham away at the weekend. So Stones and Diaz at the moment, why is he going to change it? 2 goals conceded since game week 9. He's not going to change it. I'd rather just go with that security. Whereas the fullback area, I know Cole Walker got injured last night, so that's another one to follow. If Cole Walker gets ruled out for 6 weeks or so, I would maybe then go for Cancelo, actually. Generally speaking, I'd rather go for the security. You've still got Zinchenko and Mendy in the background. And, all right, we know that Cancelo is first choice for City now. But in those sort of games, he could well fuck around with it. I don't see him fucking around with centre-back. So I would go Diaz unless Walker's ruled out for a considerable period. Zach Twyman says, hi, James. What are your thoughts on doing Robertson to Diaz Stones in order to double up on City defence already on Cancelo? So, I mean, I've obviously just kind of already covered that. I already have John Stones as well. So it would be a double up for me. If De Bruyne's out for a while, I'll probably go for a treble. I'll just get all of them. Honestly, Stones, then Diaz, then Cancelo. Or if I'm extremely confident that Cancelo will play on Tuesday, I'll go Cancelo first, then Diaz. Jose Vargas says, hi, James. Is Salah to KDB still on? Not at the moment, mate. We're going to have any different questions in here today, guys. we can't buy KDB till we've got the knowledge of the information of what's happening, can we? It was my intended transfer, but if there's a doubt about it at all, it's not going to be. Dave Perrins. Hello, Dave. This is KDB and Sky. I really should have had a picture of KDB in the thumbnail, shouldn't I? Move on for a Liverpool asset. Need one anyway. Or keep the faith in hoping he's fit for next week and move someone else out instead. At the moment, Dave, I think I'd keep the faith. Dave also said, I'd also be really keen to hear your thoughts on the offside from last night. Me and Suj just argued about this on the Patreon pod. So morally, it's completely incorrect that that's a goal. That's the biggest thing. It's just morally, it's wrong. By law and the way the law is written, if it's not interpreted correctly, unfortunately, it's the right decision. And that is ludicrous. I explained the example to Suj of imagine this. You've got a free kick comes in from the edge of the area. Say it's an in-swinger from the left. De Bruyne's taking it. Might say De Bruyne is in every question. And let's say that, I don't know, Gundogan went to flick it on. Or let's say he flicked it on. Doesn't matter. Let's just say miss it. At a point, Rodri's behind Mings and he's offside. Let's say Gundogan's in front of Mings and he misses it. But Mings thinks he's going to get a touch on it and it hits Mings in the bollocks and drops at his feet. And then Rodri, from the offside position when the free kick was taken, comes back around him, gets it off him and scores. That's okay, is it? No, it's morally wrong. It's morally wrong. Mings plays the ball differently. If Rodri's not there, it's quite simple. I know Mings even said himself on Twitter, look, in hindsight, I should have just cleared the thing. But if Rodri's not there, he doesn't just clear the thing, does he? He brings it down, controls it, and they start playing football. It's ridiculous. How in the world can you say that he's not interfering with play? He has interfered with what happened to Tyrone Mings directly by gaining an advantage from an offside position. The unfortunate thing is that technically the referees have made the right decision. That's awful. It's bad. It's bad. We've overcomplicated offside badly, in my opinion. Maneuver said, hi, James. Non-fantasy best 5 goalkeepers in the Premier League right now. Alisson's the best. Ederson would have to be in there, although, I mean, he's been very good the last 10 weeks or so, but and he made some good saves last night. But he's definitely had a dip off in the last 18 months or so, I'd say, Ederson, but he'd definitely be in the top 5. Hugo would be in there. I don't care what anybody says. Hugo would be in there. The rest is more difficult. There's a number of names you could put in line. So Emi Martinez. You could make a case for Edward Mendy at Chelsea. Kasper Schmeichel at Leicester. David De Gea, obviously. Jordan Pickford. Jokes. Bernd Leno. I think they're the ones, aren't they, that you'd put into consideration. I would say... Tough. I think De Gea would probably still be in there. Just about. I'm not sure if that's right, though. I'd go De Gea and Leno, I think. Just. Emi Martinez had an absolutely brilliant season for Aston Villa. But But ask me that question in a year's time is what I'd say to that. I've seen many goalkeepers join a new club and be absolutely brilliant for a season, then fall off a cliff. Paul Robinson at Tottenham would be one example. So if he's still performing at the same level in a year or so, then yeah, I'd put Emi Martinez in that conversation. I'm not sold on Edward Mendy at all, actually. He's a massive upgrade on Kepa, don't get me wrong, but I'm not massively sold on him. Victor Sandberg, noticed that you are smashing it this game with 125 points and 3 to go. What's your overall now? Cheers, Victor. I'm glad you said it because I didn't want to say it myself because I know people get upset when you say things about good ranks and stuff. I'm on 129 minus 4 with Robertson, Trent and Captain Salah still to go. So, yeah, look, been a great week. I'm about 460k or something now. I had a massive jump. I wildcarded in game week 16 at 1.9 million. With those 3, admittedly, I've got no Villa at the weekend. But obviously, if Salah performs well tonight, then there's every possibility I'm going to end the game week in sort of like the top 4 or possibly, even if he goes mad, possibly even the top 300k maybe. So I've had a great jump. If they play badly and lose 1-0 tonight and Villa do well at the weekend, then chances are I'm going to probably dip down to sort of maybe more like 600,000 or so. But great jump. Started the game week at 1.1 million, I think, or 1. I might have been 1.4. I can't remember. I think it's 1.1. I think 1.1. But it's been a big jump. It's gone well. I can't complain. I've had a lot of luck along the way. Even Lookman's goal last night was such a bonus. So the actual 4 bench boost players in my 4 worst players, and that's how I picked my team. Scored 14. It's not what I would have wanted from it. I would have wanted 20 from the bench boost, but Lookman's goal at least has given that bench some respectability as well. So it's been a good week. Jose Vargas says FIFA, PES or FM. So unquestionably for me, FM as in Football Manager, but I can't play that game anymore. That's your fault because to provide too much content and all my spare time is for my son. So, and Football Manager is not a game you can put on for an hour. Football Manager is like leave me in a dark room from 12 till 12, right? So Football Manager would be the answer. I was very much a FIFA child. I had every FIFA game from FIFA International all the way through to probably 2002 or something like that. And then I went to PES for a few years and then went back to FIFA in, I guess, probably the late noughties, I think. So it would be FIFA over PES, but I haven't played either for 3 years, so I'm not best placed to answer that question. Lauren Harris says, looking like Chelsea's new manager in that pre-stream picture, mate. Something to tell us? I'd probably do a better job, Lauren. I could maybe tell you that. Got an interesting article coming up, hopefully later today, but worst case tomorrow from Rotation FPL on Chelsea as well. And yeah, you need to read it. Jack Wilson said, what's the highest place a person could be now to win Sky recently? Can you win it at 2K, 1K? You can. So I'll give you a good example. So our Stato FPL Canal, he's about 3K at the moment. But I think he's only used 6 transfers. I don't know how he's done that. But then from that volume of transfers, he could go all the way. He could genuinely go all the way. So it's really dependent on transfers you've got left. To be honest with you, Jack, I am 78th. At a small dip from 76th to 78th last night. And I'm beginning to feel like I can't win it. Because I think I've used too many transfers. I can still win it, but it'd be very, very difficult. So it's very dependent on your transfer counts and whatnots. If you're in the top 2K now, genuinely, as long as you've got above 15, I'd say you can still win it. You probably, if you're more than 2K, you need to definitely be above 20, I'd say, left. So it's very dependent on that, Jake. FTLOL podcast afternoon, James, is Lookman as good or better asset than Souček? No. So interesting. We'll talk about this a bit tomorrow. Lookman played up front for Fulham yesterday rather than Cavallero. And I think the thinking behind that was to get Lookman away from Wan-Bissaka. I think that was the thinking behind that because Lookman's a tricky little player. He likes to run at people. You don't get much change out of Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So I think that was all the thinking was behind that. So I wouldn't believe that Lookman is now the OOP at Fulham rather than Cavallero, for example. It's better asset than Souček. No chance. No chance for me. No. If I've got both, if I'd sell one tomorrow, it'd be Lookman. I would not think twice about that. Sabisi1 says, hi, James. On my bench boost, it scored 23 points to -8. Is it a success? Thank you for the contents. He finished on 15 net. -8, generally, you'd have been looking for 24. So it's one short, I think. That's how I would judge it anyway. But that's fine, mate. Look, under the circumstances, the fact I ended up with 2 single game week players and on 14, if you take the -4, it's 10. It's not ideal. I would ordinarily want net 16 on the bench boost. So I got net 10. But in an odd way, because of what's happened in the rest of my team, it feels like a success. Plus, as explained on Monday's pod, if Leeds Southampton had been on, I would have kept Adams and McCarthy. I wouldn't have bought Antonio, and I probably would have sold Kane for Vardy. And I wouldn't have got Areola for McCarthy either, which that's the -4 cancel, isn't it? Areola for McCarthy. Antonio's blitzed Adams, and Kane's well outscored Vardy by another 5 points or so. So had Leeds Southampton been on and had bench boost with a full complement, unless the Leeds Southampton boys went off mad in the second game, I'd be on less points. Ironic. Mark Dorney, is 6 Man City players in Sky too much? Looks like I have captaincy days covered. No, Mark, if you've got it covered, it's absolutely fine. I think things like Rodri getting you 13 points or so last night is obviously going to be a bit of a rarity. Last night it kind of flipped with Cancelo getting the passing tiers rather than Diaz and stuff, which was interesting. I suggested that the passing tiers could be an issue for the City defensive guys last night. It's not too much. I mean, look, if you've got Gundogan, he's been on an amazing run. Do I think that's going to last? No, but even I'd have to put my hands up now and say, yeah, look, what an amazing price he is, right? In Sky and FPL, why he keeps attacking in the way that he is. And his upcoming games, he's not getting rotated at the moment. So even I have to accept Gundogan's starting to look like a good option, right? It's not too much, Mark. If you've got the cover, you just need to be very, very aware, Mark. Obviously, you're one of our patrons, so you'll know my planners in the Sky Slack channel. Just be careful, particularly of that last weekend. So, like United Everton's been arranged for a Monday. It's only going to be a Monday if one of Everton or Tottenham go out the cup this weekend, and they're both going to be heavy favourites. So that's going to go back to a Saturday. What goes on the Monday instead? Is it Leeds v Palace? Is it Sheffield United v Chelsea? Chelsea's the one you need to be really cautious of. Do you need Harry Kane for the captaincy cover rather than De Bruyne or Salah when they play each other on that Sunday, for example? You need to be cautious. Just have a second look at that planner, my friend. Any questions, DM me, mate. FTLOL podcast, best football movie of all time. Wow, on the hop. Escape to Victory. Rhinos Leeds. Hi, James. What to do with Werner? Question. Cut losses or back him over the next few? Clearly a good player in there. Is there? No, listen. I saw him play against Tottenham in the Champions League last year. He is a very good player. But I'd cut my losses on him. Yeah. Been that. Can't be having Chelsea attacking players at the moment. Be no interest for me. Sabisi1's asking everyone in the YouTube chat to give the like a video. Yeah, much appreciated. Thanks for doing the sales pitch for me because I'm used to say it. Lauren Harris says Pirlo lives to last another day after they obviously beat Napoli last night. But what about Zidane? Question. Presume you saw his Giants lost to the Spanish Shrewsbury in the Copa del Rey. Big teams going missing this season. Bayern, Juve, Madrid, Barca. The thing is, we're so concentrated on the Premier League and it being a mad season and Liverpool not performing as well and Chelsea faltering, Arsenal faltering, all those kind of things. You have to look around the leagues around Europe. Same thing's happening. It's happening everywhere. Like Atletico are top in Spain, aren't they? Inter and AC are doing they've had a good resurgence. Talking for Lauren, who's submitted the question, I'd highly recommend if you want to follow her on Twitter, go to FPL Livergirl. And she's written a very good article, which I actually retweeted on my timeline earlier this week on the battle for Serie A at the moment and the resurgence of the Milan clubs, if you want a bit of extra reading on that. Zidane, I would say, Lauren, from my limited knowledge of Spanish football this year, and I put my hands up and say that it is limited, he's probably not under pressure of losing his job, having lost a Copa del Rey match to a third division team, as shocking as it may be. I think he's lasted this long that he's got some backing higher up that most Madrid managers won't get. And to be fair, he's got the credibility in the back with all the things that he's won there, hasn't he? So I think he'll be all right at the moment. James Beacott, do you think Leeds assets are, and he's retracted the message, but he submitted it again. Do you think Leeds assets are worth it considering their form? Leeds assets you need to keep in mind. The other big reason not to make early transfers this week, and the reason that all our opinions may well change between now and Tuesday and the game week 20 deadline, is what happens in the cup this week could have a massive bearing on what we all do next. Now, for me, who doesn't own treble Manchester City, whatever happens in the cup results, Manchester City is still my priority this week, but it may affect my thinking for afterwards. So, for example, I could go Rafinha to Gundogan, and it's now a move that I could genuinely consider. But I don't want to do that if Leeds United are suddenly potentially going to have a double game week in game week 23. And that's a possibility if Arsenal beat Southampton at the weekend. There are several doubles that could occur in game week 23. They essentially feature Villa, Everton, City, Tottenham, Leeds, Southampton in some combinations or another. And it's dependent on the cup results this weekend. So like if Tottenham lose to Wickham, which, okay, it's unlikely, I think that Villa will play Tottenham in game week 23. If Southampton Leeds is less of a priority, but there's every chance that it'll almost definitely be in game week 23 or game week 26 if Arsenal beat Southampton. So the cup results this weekend are really, really important. If Tottenham beat Wickham, but Everton lose to Sheffield United, it's a good chance that Aston Villa will play Everton in game week 23. Don't make early transfers. There's so much here to learn. Petrulia says, have Stones and Diaz triple up with Cancelo. Yeah, fine with that. Spoken about it already. I'm okay with it. Sabisi1 says, James, please rank Manchester United's midfielders in order. Baffles me Ollie picks McTominay over Donny. Well, Donny van der Beek has shown nothing beyond reputation from his excellent performances at Ajax. And another one I saw in the Champions League a couple of years ago. I know he's a good player. But I think Van der Beek's best position is slightly higher. So I don't at the moment think those two players are necessarily comparable, actually. So in terms of central midfield, to be honest, at the moment, I'd probably put Van der Beek fifth, honestly, at the moment. He picks partnerships in terms of the double pivot. He picks partnerships dependent on the opponent and obviously who's fit. But I spoke about previously he wouldn't play Pogba in that position against Liverpool. Too much for a risk. Against the Burneys and the Fulhams, he's happier to do it, get an extra forward into the team. So it's a little bit dependent on that. Van der Beek, in fairness, has not had an opportunity, but he's also not really shown anything in other games to suggest that he should have it either. He'll find his way in eventually at United, or he'll leave because he's too good of a player to not have the involvement at the moment. That FPL Lounge says, hey up, party people. Hope all is good. Keep up the great work, James. Thanks very much. Get rid of that stupid emoji, though, mate. Benjamin Dipnell. Will Justin keep his place? Who should I keep longer term? Reece James or James Justin? The thing is, James Justin's played every game for Leicester this season. Reece James definitely on my hit list of players that I want and would like. Yep. I think there's possibility Chelsea go to free at the back for the Wolves game and perhaps the next few weeks. And if they do, that just adds to the appeal of Reece James. So in terms of keep longer term, I think the answer at the moment, Benjamin, is keep both. That's right. Keep both. Brilliant value. I think Justin stays in at the moment. There's no rush to risk Pereira in. There's a lot of thought at the moment that Pereira may even go into the team eventually on the right of midfield once he's built up fitness. Vish says, why does Pep hate Mahrez? You'd have to ask Pep that, mate. I'm not into his mind. Jovial says, should I bring in Matty Cash in place of Wesley Fofana, considering Syunchu is back fit now? Another one. Fofana, if he comes out of that team, ridiculous. Ridiculous if he comes out of that team. He's playing too well. I think the thinking eventually is obviously to go Syunchu and Fofana and eventually phase Johnny Evans probably out the team. It would be ridiculous to take Wesley Fofana out there at the moment. Why would you do that? He's playing too well, in my opinion. I don't think that's a concern. Really don't. I think it's more likely Syunchu would come in for Evans. The only question mark on that is in terms of experience and leadership in the back line. But I think Syunchu's a bit of a talker. So I don't think that's too much of a problem. And I've obviously got a goalkeeper who's extremely vocal as well, in Kasper Schmeichel. So I mean, it'll be all right. I think Fofana will be fine. Pushkar says, thoughts on the close title race? Is the league really competitive or the standards have fallen? Also your favourites? Well, having said that Liverpool had won it a month ago, I have to now say that I've made City favourites. It'd be blind faith in Liverpool if I still said that I thought they'd win it at the moment. I think Liverpool had to stay ahead of City, and it's dangerous now because they can go further adrift next week, and then they've got a tough game at Tottenham, right? And then suddenly you're going, oh my God. So that City can really get up head of steam. A lot will be dependent on the game that they have with each other in game week 23 is going to be massive. I don't think United will win the league, but they are very much in there at the moment. Haven't lost an away game for over a year, which is incredible, like full credit. Another game last night where they came back from behind and won the game. I think City and Liverpool have more experience in the big games when it matters and it gets to the crunch of it as well. But I think the United players are starting to believe. And in this mad season, that gives them a chance. In the same way, it gives Leicester a chance. Leicester now are in a great position and now they've got everybody fit. So for me, Leicester have got a shot at the moment. Got a better chance than Tottenham or Chelsea winning the league. That's a certainty. Leicester could easily tail off, don't get me wrong. But at the moment, they've got a shot. United have got a shot. It's going to take a big performance now to stop City winning it, though, I think, moving forward. Even the way they reacted last night to the fact they lost De Bruyne, their heads could have gone a bit, and it didn't. Good. I mean, it was a great game last night. The reason it's competitive is, yes, because standards have fallen. But I also don't think we should be too critical on City and Liverpool for the fact that their standards have dropped in this madness period. The reality is that the points United are on at the moment would not have them in a title race over the last 3 or 4 years. That's the reality. But they're doing very well, and they're in there with a shot at the moment. Meninda says, had a mare in January and missed a few Sky transfers, captains. Sitting at 2,200 rank with 27 transfers, worth carrying on. Anything to attack before overhaul? Have Grealish still? It's definitely worth carrying on. Attack City, but it feels like it's probably a bit late now if you haven't already. That's fairly obvious. You still can. But yeah, I mean, listen, you can still win the whole thing from there, mate. Jamie Anthony says, hi, James. Just want to say thanks for the content. You're very welcome, Jamie. Vish says, I didn't use bench boost this game because of the Leeds Southampton chaos. For the coming weeks, do I keep the bench strong in anticipation to use it or start shifting funds from bench into first 11? Right, you are almost definitely going to use that bench boost in one of the next 7 game weeks. So I would be keeping that bench strong. Toby Alexander Hughes said, hi, James. Hope you're well, champ. I already own Diaz as a defensive asset who has been a fantastic buy. Would you recommend also picking up one of Cancelo or Stones for the next 3 tasty fixtures? As said previously, Toby, yep, absolutely fine with that. Alex Piri, Firmino and Salah on bench tonight, apparently. Reliable source, so hopefully bang on. He's got a sweating face on him. You let me know about that reliable source after the stream, mate. Savage FPL, more philosophical question. I've had a horrible double game week, 74 with 3 to play. When analysing failure, what's your process for separating bad decisions from bad luck? The answer to that is you assess the decision before the week starts. That's it. Have you made the right decision before it starts? And we all think we have, and sometimes that's what I always think. I always look when I make my transfer, is this the right decision now? I can't affect the outcome. Can I give me the best possible chance of the outcome? And am I judging it over 1 week? Am I judging it over 5 weeks? Am I judging it over moving this money because moving that money is going to allow me transfer X for the next week? So I don't judge it as failure anyway. Sod that for a game of soldiers. None of this failure stuff. So for me, it's an assessment before the week happens. And then it's easy to be clever dick afterwards and say, oh, this happened, yada, yada, yada. The transfers I made last week was logical, in my opinion, was getting Antonio in for a -4 was quite logical. That's okay. He's worked out. But as I said earlier in the stream, if Southampton Leeds had been on, I probably wouldn't have bothered. And I'd have thought, I really fancy Vardy to outscore Kane this week and made that transfer. And that also would have been logical. It hasn't worked now, but yes, it was logical to buy Jamie Vardy with a double game week over Harry Kane. So if there's logic in the decision making, fine. It wouldn't have been logical to buy Harry Kane in place of Jamie Vardy this week, would it? Even though Kane scored 5 more points than him, that wouldn't have been logical. Even though that would have worked out in your favour, that's not the right decision. So as long as the thought process is right in the first instance, the game will play out. It's a mad season as well, right? The game will play out however it plays out. I've had a lot of bad luck in FPL this season, and I've had some extremely good luck since I wildcarded in game week 16. But assess it. No, it's all in the decision making beforehand. There are things you can assess afterwards to then influence your next decision. So, for example, like the earlier question we had on Lookman, he obviously played up front last night. My assessment on that is that probably doesn't stay that way because of the potential matchup with Wan-Bissaka. Nuazari, Werner was a bad bet this double game week. I'm getting rid right away. Replacement suggestion. Jamie Vardy, if you can get there. Harry Kane's worth a mention. Ollie Watkins is worth keeping on radar, particularly if one of Everton or Tottenham lose this weekend, and then you shove the funds. I don't think there's anything great on the forwards. Another name to throw in there to consider and keep a very, very close eye on. Although he's got a tough 3 fixtures coming up: Arsenal, Villa, Man United. Danny Ings at very low owned when he comes back could be interesting because he could have a brilliant double game week of Newcastle away and Leeds away in 23. So I don't want to keep these players far from my thoughts. And it's just another reason why let's wait till Monday, Tuesday, guys, and see where we stand after the weekend. John McEwen, Villa, Rob, Low, Lauren Harris, who to captain Champ Man tonight with Ruud van Nistelrooy news. Lauren, I don't even know what the news is, but I'm captaining Shearer. Roseanne Fleur, I'm 7 points ahead of my opponent in FPL Cup. I have Trent versus my opponents Martinez and Watkins. Can I win the match? Your thoughts? Yes, you can. It'll purely come down to probably whether Watkins scores or not, because you'd fancy both Trent and Martinez for clean sheets. So it probably comes down to what Watkins does. Rishi Patel, going forward after game week 20, which are the 4 best players from Salah, Fernandes, KDB, Son, Kane to have? You want me to leave one out? Well, at the moment, if Kevin De Bruyne's injured, he's going to be the one to leave out. But realistically, the one to leave out there at the moment, unbelievably, it's probably Salah. It really probably is Salah. I'm just looking at potential captaincy, looking ahead. So, I mean, if De Bruyne's fit, would you go Salah against Brighton or KDB against Burnley, considering City's unbelievable record against Burnley previously? Is at Burnley, admittedly. Brighton haven't been really smashed by any of the big clubs this year. Drew 1-1 with Brighton, lost one. Drew 1-1 with Liverpool, lost 1-0 to City, lost 3-1 to Chelsea opening weekend, lost 2-1 to Brighton, to Tottenham, lost 1-0 to Arsenal, 1 at Villa. Is another big club I've missed there. Man United, they lost 3-2 to Man United. They should have fucking won in game week 3. So it's probably Salah. It's the expendable one, but it's going to be depend on KDB fitness, isn't it? Obviously, if you've got Kane and Son, it's worth saying that you're not going to captain both of them. And from a value perspective, if you can get Salah, Fernandes, KDB and Kane and not break your team, that's probably still the most explosive 4. But the games coming up for Son are interesting, right? A Brighton team for Tottenham, hopefully next weekend in game week 21, hopefully we'll still be without Lamptey. That then becomes an easier fixture for Son if he's not available. Chelsea, counter-attack. They've got problems at the moment. West Brom the game after us. I mean, they both look like great fixtures for Tottenham after the Liverpool game in game week 20. You make a case for Son against Liverpool even in terms of the counter, if Tottenham play it right on the night. Pochulia, Cancelo captain for game week 20. This is a really interesting question. I think that's a possibility. I genuinely do. If KDB's out, I wouldn't captain the City guys defensively over KDB. KDB's out. It's a really interesting one with Tottenham and Liverpool playing each other. But I really think that you're only making that move if you haven't got Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes, if KDB's out, for the majority of us, is going to be captain Bruno Fernandes, and it really doesn't matter because the captaincy will be so massive. There aren't many players that are going to have Bruno Fernandes next week if KDB's injured and not captain Bruno. So for that reason, I can't say. Is it an amazing differential for you? Yeah, potentially so, particularly if you don't own Bruno. Rakshit says Mateta is a proper power forward. He should be an upgrade on Benteke Batshuayi. It's referring to if you're joining in late. Crystal Palace have bought loan forward Mateta from Mainz. I say bought. He's on loan with a view to a permanent transfer. Alfredo Demetrius, should I bring in Southampton defender and Ings from next week? So I wouldn't rush it. So just to go back on what I was saying about Danny Ings, there's difficult fixtures to come. We need to keep them in mind. But to answer the question, at the moment, the answer would be no. B. Conway, have you ever seen a 70 million player that looks as underdeveloped as Havertz? Honestly, looks like someone drafted him from the academy. I described him to Ted at Rotation FPL as looking like a rabbit caught in the headlights. And the meaning of that is he's scared. He's in fear. He's been put on the stage. The lights are on. What do I do? Genuinely, he just looks ordinary. He just looks ordinary. If his name was Mason Mount, he'd be getting grief. People be like, what's this kid in the team for? So that he's clearly a good footballer. I didn't watch a lot of Bundesliga football during the restart, but everybody who did says like it was incredible. So there's definitely a player in there. I know factually there's a player in there with Timo Werner. But I've seen nothing yet to convince me that he's going to be a top player. Literally nothing. But he's going to need some time. He wouldn't be the first player to come to the Premier League, do nothing in the first season, do really well in the second. But genuinely at the moment, I think the best thing would be to take him out of the team. I strongly do believe that. Werner's a different case. I think you still want Werner in and around it. Havertz, I'll just leave him out of the team and I'll be bringing him on in games when they're winning comfortably. And otherwise wouldn't bother. Not when they're all fit. And they all are now. Ziyech, Pulisic, they're all fit now, right? I wouldn't have them involved personally. FPL bro, hey James, is it time to think about Pogba for FPL? So it said on the podcast last week, I think last Thursdays or Fridays, whenever we released it. I think it was Friday. I said someone is going to ask me this question about Pogba after the game week. About is he an option now? And I did say on Friday's pod that I thought he was a great buy for anybody that was free hitting in game week 19. If I'd have been on free hit, I think I would have got him in game week 19 because I would have seen the potential in playing higher. And actually, I thought he'd play higher against Fulham than he did last night. So in theory, that decision would have been wrong, actually, from the reason I would have done that. At the moment, no. What he's starting to do, he's starting to sense opportunity and believes the moment's there for him. When Paul Pogba was a really good FPL asset, there was a big reason behind that. Penalties. Not for me. Not for me personally. Brilliant goal last night. He's over the last 3-4 weeks or so, he's getting back to that form that he showed sort of Christmas time, 2018, I think, when Solskjaer first came in. And he looked absolutely brilliant. That was him at his peak. This still isn't quite it yet, in my opinion. So I think he has levels that he can go to. But now it's about sustainability. I would not find him an FPL asset at the moment, personally. Mirza says, would you start Justin or Soufal in 20? Thanks. I can't answer that, Mirza, because I've got both. And at the moment, I probably should have been saving the bench boost for game week 20. At the moment, they're both on my bench as it stands at the moment. Now, that could heavily change. I genuinely would need to think about it. I haven't made the decision yet. My instinct would be that decision may well be quite relative to if Wilfried Zaha's available or not. I think if Zaha is fit, I would pick Justin. If he's not, I'd be worried for Palace, and then I would probably go for Soufal. Hazard CFC, good work, James. I'm on 130 with Salah to go. Happy days. TJ Dara, hi, James. Are there any of the young Spurs players you think could go on loan to gain experience and actually play? Question. Apparently, we, Swansea, have been linked to Divine, but don't know much about him. So Alfie Devine's great talent. He's 16, and not long 16. Scored against Marine in the FA Cup. Spurs took advantage of, I don't know if they did take advantage of Wigan's financial situation to pick him up in the summer. Wigan got a decent fee for him, 300,000 or so. But Spurs played against him in the FA Youth Cup last year And that's what really got Spurs' attention to the ability of the player. Not ready to be playing championship level, my friend. Really doubt that. He's 16. In a year or two, potentially, I wouldn't say he's ready to play championship level yet. He's one that his age, he's definitely better off just staying with Tottenham at the moment. Players that you could have on loan from us. Danny Rose. Maybe. You want to pay the wages? I don't know. That might be an option. The one really good one for Spurs to go out and get on loan this year was Oliver Skipp, who you'll know is at Norwich and is doing really well. Hopefully he'll be integrated back into the first team next season. Japhet Tanganga, maybe at centre-back. It's probably not likely to get too many chances in the first team. If you had to pick me to name one that you could have on loan for the end who might do you some good, Japhet Tanganga might be the answer. FPL Glasto, too upset with Glasto cancelled to ask a serious question, but he's 93 with no transfers or ships used this week and 6 still to go. Any good? It's fine. Suja's doing fine, as I covered at the start. He's doing much better than yesterday. Sabisi1, I am on 121 points, James. Thanks for your insight. 100% positive vibes. Rishi Patel into top 600 for the first time ever. Thanks for all the help and tips from you and all the other FPL content YouTubers. Looking to triple up on Villa again. Which 3 players would you get from Villa? Got Martinez already. I wouldn't buy Grealish till I knew that yellow card situation was out the way. So I think the priority for me would probably be Ollie Watkins. And then I would leave the space for Grealish rather than buy another, I think. B. Conway, have you a threshold in mind as to when you might stop discussing what moves you're going to make on Sky Fantasy Football Pod as you get close to the 50k? Surely you'll start considering how much info you want to give. I won't stop. I mean, I might do things where I say, look, I'm going to keep it to myself who I'm going to captain this week. But then yesterday, I mean, it doesn't matter at the moment, does it? Yesterday, I said I would almost definitely captain Bruno Fernandes. And the honest answer was, it depends on the Villa team. If I'd got the Villa team and it was shit and there was Neil Taylor and the likes in it, I would have captained De Bruyne. At the end of the day, it didn't matter. It didn't make any difference. In Sky, Fernandes didn't get the assist for the FPLers wondering. I went Fernandes. That's the truthful answer. I have every right to give an opinion and then potentially I might change my mind. Like what happened with Rodri last week. I couldn't make my mind up. So I can only tell it like it is. Is there a stage where I'll stop telling what I'm going to do? No. I don't see it. I can only see it being a position for me saying, and I would do it honestly and say, I'm not going to tell you who I'll transfer this week, but these are the best options that I think are available under these circumstances. Or I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to captain this week. If that's what it comes to, fine. But I will still sit there, and if it's Bruno or Fernandes, and say and explain it exactly the same way, and then when Sush says, so which one are you going to captain? I'll say, I'm not going to tell you. And it wouldn't be a lie. That would be the truth. And then you still have to judge what my opinion would be from when I saw the Villa team if I was going to captain De Bruyne or Fernandes. So I'm not worried about it. The chance of me being in a position where that's going to happen in any case are extremely unlikely. And as much as I'd love the money that come with it, I would nearly be more pleased if one of my patrons wins that this year. I would love that because I will feel like in a way I would have contributed and helped that. They still make the transfers, etc. There's a lot we do in the Patreon Slack channel to help each other and stuff for Sky Fantasy Football. So I would be just as happy if one of them won it. In terms of what we'd do with if I had the 50k, nearly everything would be getting spent on improvements in the house, to be honest. So it's not like I'm going to be having some sort of lavish lifestyle or something. It'd be something to make Harry's bedroom better and stuff like that. That's it. That's where the money would go, and to his future. So, I mean, it's not a life-changing sum. It would be amazing. It would be brilliant. I don't think I'll be in a position where it'll matter, to be honest. James Beacock says, would you hold Torres for the upcoming game? It's been really frustrating owning him. Nah. I don't want Foden, Sterling, Torres, Mahrez, Bernardo. I don't want any of them. It's a pain in the arse. It's generally 2 players from 5. Phil Foden looks brilliant now, right? Should have returned this game week. Definitely should have returned. He'd be the one. But I'd sod that. I had no idea who he's going to pick. Excuse me. I'm Davey. Best three forwards to own for upcoming fixtures. Best three forwards to own for upcoming fixtures. Money, no object. There aren't great options. Part of the problem. Ollie Watkins, potentially. To be honest, you could make a case for Callum Wilson. Leeds, Everton, Palace. It's not bad. Make a case for Callum Wilson. Vardy would come into that reckoning. Martial or Cavani, if you know who's going to play. Harry Kane, potentially a decent outside choice for captaincy in game week 21, possibly. Particularly if De Bruyne is going to be out for a while, which we don't know at the moment. Luke Hopkinson, hope Trent Hall's tonight if Matip is back. And Henderson on right in midfield, get Trent higher. Jake Cow says, Sky question, De Bruyne to Rodri and spend the money elsewhere. Next week, Jake, I've covered plenty on my thoughts on De Bruyne. We need to wait, and that's for both forms of FPL, Sky, any fancy game. For me, it's wait. Matteo says, hi, James, thoughts on Gundogan as KDB potential replacement? Fine. If you're going to then shove the money elsewhere, if that's going to take you the following week in game week 21 from, I don't know, Adams to Kane, if that's the way you want to play the game, for example, it's fine. I don't mind it. Arta says, should I cry if I end up with under 100 points this game week? No, just go again next game week. Tyrell Maxfield, hello, James. What are you drinking? It's only water, my friend. It's all I tend to drink these days. Sam Farrow, James, would you take a -4 to swap Foden and Souček for Maddison and Barnes and Saka or Emil Smith-Rowe? No. No, I wouldn't take any option that involves selling Souček at the moment. Ivo McGrandy, is it time for Vardy to De Bruyne? Might be next week. Paul Sweeney, hi mate, had a bad double game with myself, trying to rectify it. Is it worth a -4 to swap Foden and Neto for Maddison and Saka? I presume it's meant to be Saka. It might be, but again, please wait till Tuesday. I know it's a boring answer, but I'm sorry, that's my answer at the moment, because the answer I give you now might be completely irrelevant come Monday when we're looking at a potential position where we might have 4 teams who might double in game week 23. In which case, I'm not going to be recommending people like Maddison to you. I'm probably going to be looking at people that are like from Villa or Southampton or Leeds or something else instead. Leeds have a good little run of fixtures. Starts with Newcastle next week. So if Leeds suddenly, we might all be angry with their assets at the moment, walking into Leeds, then Leicester away, then Everton at home, then a double game week potentially of Palace and Southampton. I can advise you the Leeds player. So we all need to wait. I was set on my mind. I said this on the podcast on Monday. I know my transfer is Salah to De Bruyne. There's no way I'll make it early because there's games to go and shit can happen, as proven from last night. And there's too much information from the FA Cup games to worry about it. And that's part why in the start of this chat, I said it'd be great to get some non-fantasy questions because some of the answers I give you now are irrelevant come Monday, Tuesday, honestly. Ivan McGrandle, would you recommend getting rid of Arnold to fund Diaz and Stones? That one's a little bit more straightforward. I can't argue it, as big of a fan of Trent as I am. Abu Dhabi Dagger, is it time to move on from Chilwell, even with Chelsea's reasonable fixtures? Had him since 5.5. I would definitely keep Ben Chilwell at the moment. As I said earlier in relation to Reece James, I think there's a possibility Chelsea go to a back three. Chilwell is essentially in no competition with Emerson and Alonso. They just don't get a look in. One of them will probably play Luton in the Cup, but you don't need to worry about it. So no, I'd be more looking to buy Ben Chilwell than sell Ben Chilwell at the moment. Jake Powell says, hello, James. Are there any championship teams that are potentially going to be promoted that you think will do well next season? That's really difficult to predict, right? Because I think that Wolves and Leeds have been the two that have come up in the last couple of years that we really felt could be very good. And to a lesser extent, Leeds, we've kind of, the majority of us have been right about most. When Wolves come up, a lot of us would like they'll finish top half. Generally believe that. Leeds was harder to gauge because of the style they play, and you don't know how that's gonna. But they're right? They're not going to go down or anything. They'll be fine. It said that they have some massive dips of forms during the season. They'd get battered a couple of times and they'll dish out a few batterings. But they'll, generally speaking, they'll be fine. In terms of a team coming up, I can't see anyone coming up at the moment. I'd think, oh, yeah, you could push to do what Leeds are doing this year. Couldn't see that at the moment. But it's very difficult to say. If I'd have said to you last night that Aston Villa were going to be one of the best teams to watch in this league, if I'd have said that to you in the summer, you'd have said, what are you on, James? None of us would have believed that. They're generally near enough the best team in the league to watch at the moment. They defend properly, they attack properly, they play with intensity, they don't have fear. Good team. That team should have got relegated in July. Now, obviously, they've added well. Martinez, Cash, Watkins, Barkley. Barkley's been missing for, 7-8 game weeks. It's not bothered them. But a lot of that team's still the same, right? Did I think that Martinez, Cash, and Watkins would have this big of an impact? You'd have to look at it and say, is it them specifically that have? It's probably Martinez, actually, in terms of the confidence that he gives for the defenders that's probably had the biggest impact. But nobody thought in September, before the season started, that Villa were going to be in a potential race for the top 4. And they're very capable of it, by the way. That's really, really difficult to give you analysis. What I would say is, on the little I've seen in the EFL this year, whoever comes up, none of them are going to explode in the Premier League. I'd be very, very surprised if Watford came back up and suddenly they're finishing 10th next year, for example, or Norwich. I'd be very surprised. Ivo says, worth keeping West Ham assets. Why wouldn't you with Palace away next? Ahmet says, g'day, James. Holding Vardy, what is your thoughts on him going forward? Very unlucky last 2 games. That's part of the point, right? So there's been quite a bit made of, particularly in the Sky channels. You guys will know. There's been a lot made of the fact Vardy notoriously has a very bad January record. He had 7 shots against Southampton. How's he not scored? I mean, you can remove the big chance from the Chelsea game because it'd have been given as offside anyway. But yeah, 9 times out of 10 he scores in that Southampton game. And he's got good games, right? Everton, Leeds, Fulham. It's a decent run. I wouldn't be selling Jamie Vardy at the moment, I think. FPL Trophy, how's it going, James? Hope you're well. Decent week for you this week. It was, thank you. Ivo says, and we'll leave with this. Loving the show. Listen on my dog walks around my area. Keep working as hard as you are. It is entertaining me so much. Cheers, mate. Appreciate all the kind comments and whatnots. If you want to support what we do, not because we sell FPL advice, but support us in making our content and me having the time to do it, etc., then there are obviously links in the description, both for the audio and on YouTube. You can have a look at our Patreon content. This week we did a Q&A on Monday. What did we do on Tuesday, James? We did our Tottenham podcast. I went into big detail about Gareth Bale, and we laughed quite a lot at the nearly 50 strikers that West Ham have bought in the Gold Sullivan era. Yesterday, we did a what I think was a really good podcast on Burnley takeover. I think that was really good, actually, really interesting. It kind of goes beyond just Burnley expectations of football club and stuff. We've done a quiz today on January transfer windows. And tomorrow we've got a Sky. Be back tomorrow, main podcast. Me and Suj hopefully have that out for you afternoonish for audio and on YouTube. Be reviewing the midweek action, giving early thoughts for game week 20. But a lot of it's going to be kind of centered on the awareness of what could happen in cup games this week as well. So that'll be main pod tomorrow. Monday clash of the correspondents will be Crystal Palace and West Ham with Mig and Chris previewing that game. That'll be out for you on Monday to preview their clash in game week 20. In terms of streams for myself, solo only, I will probably be next Friday, my Ask James stream. I think what we'll probably do next week is we'll do the main podcast Monday and tomorrow, and then next Thursday. And then I'll do a bit on this stream on Tottenham Liverpool Thursday night to kick off the stream. It's probably the best thing we can do. And I'm sure as it's the day after, probably I'll get plenty of questions on that anyway. I'll have my deadline stream for you on Tuesday ahead of the deadline as well. So that'll be 3:30 p.m. UK time as well. But thanks for tuning in, everyone on YouTube. Thanks for listening on the audio. Keep safe, everybody. Stay nice to each other, please. Ciao for now. Cue music for the audio listeners, please, man, child.